Camille, belle, la moustache et la capuchon. Sito patamilo, mina taka tiki pule pika. Sito patamilo, mina taka tiki pule pika. Sito patamilo, mina taka tiki pule pika. Sito patamilo, mina taka tiki tiki. Sito patamilo, mina taka tiki pule pika. Sito patamilo, mina taka tiki pule pika. Sito patamilo, mina taka tiki pule pika. Camille, belle, la moustache et la capuchon.
What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show, and today is my post-draft combine show. I have to say this because I think that a lot of times people think that the combine is an example of what you're going to get out of a player. And to be quite honest, I just want to say this because a lot of you feel that if a guy runs a fast time or he's the star of the combine, that automatically means that he should be taken in a higher round than he really should be. And this combine was a great example of that. To me, I feel that the combine only works for those players who were injured and they're trying to show that they're back from injury. Now, a good example of that is Willis McGahee back in, I think it was 2003. 2003, Willis McGahee gets hurt in one of the games later on in the season. He has an ACL tear, something that happened with his knee. And then all of a sudden, everybody was skeptical about him being able to come back. So now it was a point where they were talking about Willis McGahee falling in the draft due to the injury he received in the final games of, I think, Miami's season. So when that happened, he came to the combine to show that, one, his knee was repaired, two, he was going to be able to start training camp, and three, he was going to be a fully functional body. Now, also understand this. There have been darlings of combines in the past that have not panned out in the NFL. They've been taken way too high, and at the same time, they've been taken ahead of players who were actually better than them. So when you're looking at the combine, don't necessarily pay attention to a guy running fast or he ran the drills right and things like that. These guys practice this stuff. So understand that when they get to the combine, they done already practiced it so much that it doesn't do anything. What I wish the people for the combine would do was give them more in-game style action. Because I want to see a guy throw in a tight window. I want to see a guy be able to avoid a pass rush. There are things that I think they can incorporate in the combine to make people who look at it feel more like they're actually getting what they're getting out of a player. A good example again of a combine darling, Ryan Finley. Ryan Finley was, I had did a video some time ago where I told y'all when they were talking about the possibility of the Redskins taking Ryan Finley. I made it clear that Ryan Finley was a bad quarterback. He really, really was. In North Carolina State, he was making a lot of mistakes. When it came to the pass rush, he got extremely nervous, and he had a high interception rate versus a high touchdown rate, which was insane for the guy. He goes to the combine, and he becomes a phenom at the combine. The guy actually is drafted before Gardner Minshew. When Ryan Tannehill steps in for the Bengals for Andy Dalton, he ends up having the worst performance you could ever see a guy have in Cincinnati. They thought that he was going to be something, but I knew from the get-go he wasn't going to be, and it showed up. Don't take guys who are stars in the combine to be what you're actually going to get when you get to the NFL level. Another example that happened here in DC, Josh Doctson. The reason he went up in the first round and we chose him in the first round was because he was a darling at the combine. He was one of the top performers at wide receiver at the combine. We can't be sitting here like, as fans, we got to understand what this is really about. In reality, there are a lot of drills that we don't need to see certain players run. The only players that need to run the 40, to me, is the wide receivers, the running backs, the safeties, and the cornerbacks. That's it. I don't necessarily need to see a linebacker run a fast 40. I don't need to see an offensive lineman run a fast 40. I don't need to see a defensive lineman run a fast 40. Because there are people in place to make sure that somebody should make the tackle. I would like to see tackling drills. Stuff where you actually see the guys come in on the tackle. Maybe they should incorporate, the Pro Bowl has a skills challenge thing. That to me is actually incredible. But I would like to see if some of these quarterbacks can do those skill challenge type things. Also, you have to realize that just because a guy runs a fast 40, understand they're doing all this stuff and they don't have on any equipment. Not one single piece of equipment, not a helmet, not shoulder pads, not knee pads, nothing. They have nothing on. So yes, of course a guy is going to look fast running a 40, but at the same time, he may not look the same way. Another thing, some guys just don't like those type of workouts. Some guys are just phenoms on the field, and when it comes to working out, they're just not there. A good example is Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson always talks about how he hated working out. But when it came to being on that field, he was one of the greatest running backs there were. And that's just it. So I just want people to zone in and focus in on necessarily what your team needs are. Like the Redskins, our team needs, we do have some stuff that we need. But at the same time, let's not pay attention to guys that jumped up in that you feel is going to jump up in the draft due to the fact of them having an amazing combine. The combine is nothing more than a televised workout. That's all it is. That's all it is. And everybody has to be on the same page with understanding that you can't zone in on the fact that a guy ran a fast 40. Or I give you a great example. In this year's combine, they had a person who had 25 reps at 225 pounds. How many of y'all know that person was a punter? A punter. Michael Turk had 25 reps at 225 pounds. Do you really need a punter who can basically bust up a wedge? Do you really need that? I mean, what if he's a crappy punter? Did we really need to know that not only is he a punter, he's probably one of the strongest punters we'll ever see in the NFL? I mean, he can basically go down there and bust up the wedge by himself. But that's not what you need out of your NFL punter. You just don't. I don't need to see my NFL punter lifting. I need to see if he can kick a 73-yard field goal just in case your team is just not working. I need to see if he can make a kick from 60 yards or so. I need to see that. See how far he can kick when it comes down to it. For punters, I need to see if they can punt all the way down to the one accurately. We need to see that type of stuff. We need to see if a quarterback can avoid a rush. We need to see if a linebacker can tackle. We need to see if a cornerback can tackle. These are things we need to see. I'll run down the guys that, I talked about that everybody should be paying attention to in this combine that I felt could fall to the Redskins. A good example, my guy Jordan Brooks. Great linebacker. He ran the 40. Guess what? I already knew he was fast. I think he ran a 4.5 or something like that, or 4.4, something like that. He ran pretty fast, but guess what? I already knew that. My thing was, I wanted to see how strong he was. That was it. That's all I needed to see from him, because there were points in his game where he got mauled by offensive linemen. So that's all I wanted to see. Another thing, Adam Troutman. See, he went out there, and come to find out, he had one of the slowest times for a tight end. One of the slowest times. That's crazy. Devin Asiasi, my guy that I would want the Redskins to pick. Guess what? He came at the combine and he was weighing in, I think he weighed in at 250 something. Whereas his playing weight was like 270 something. So he shed 20 whole pounds. So that means that his time went up. There, like who else? Shadiq Charles, who I feel we need to draft because with the whole Trent situation going on, we need to find a replacement for Trent. Shadiq Charles sat up there and he came into the combine. He was weighing 321 pounds and he ran a 5.5. Guess what? At the college level, his normal playing weight was at 295. So he basically added on 30 whole pounds just to be ready for the combine. Steven Montez, the guy said we should draft to be our backup, had a phenomenal combine. But guess what? When you look at him on film, you can tell that there's a difference between that. You can tell that there's a massive difference between him in a game and him at the combine. When he's not getting a pass rush, when he's not forced to look at windows that are closing, when he can't stare, when staring down a wide receiver is okay. You know, there are things that we need to understand about this. The combine isn't what you think it is, people. Now, I'm not trying to crap on y'all and say y'all don't know a thing. I just want to make sure you guys are aware that just because a guy runs a 4.29 doesn't mean that he's draftable. Like I said, Josh Doctson was the biggest example of a combine darling. He basically did a whole lot at that combine. He did so much that it got him drafted in the first round. And he was a disaster for us. Absolute disaster for us. So again, like I said, I just want y'all to temper your expectations when you're watching the combine. You only need to find out if a guy is fast when you see him on the field. If a guy looks fast on the field and then he goes to the 40 and you find out that he's fast without the equipment on, that's fine. That means that that's translating because you saw it on film. But just because a guy runs fast at the combine, but you don't see a lot of skill in this guy when you look at the film, there's no need in drafting him. It's just no need. Francis Bernard, they sat up there and said that the guy is going to be maybe a possible end of the roster pick. But from what I saw, it just seems like he was playing in the wrong system. That's how I look at it. But y'all have to explain to me, when y'all tell me in the comments, when y'all saw the draft and y'all looked at the draft, did you guys really feel that the Redskins should be drafting people higher than what they were just because they ran a faster time or they lifted weights? Or were you still feeling the same way that you feel that the Redskins should take the best player on film instead of taking the fastest player at the combine? Y'all let me know. Other than that, this has been your man John Fortune, and this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.